All right. Welcome to all my minions. Welcome back to the Minions Lair Tuesday nights. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. So let's start with some greetings in the chat, as we always do. There will be a part two to Storytellers tonight. You do not want to miss it. If you enjoyed last week's story, you will enjoy this one too. All right, so let's get going here. Mike Jernak says he's hope he's going to make it. If not, have a good Tuesday, everyone. Hopefully, Mike will make it back. If not, it's good to have him stop in. Don't forget to hit the like button for me here. If you've assembled here tonight, hit that like button for me before we get started. Joe Kasprick also says if you try to be back in time for the live, you'll have a little bit of time before story time kicks in, but I've got some other cool stuff to talk about too. Again, part two of Storytellers this evening. As soon as we get through some of the basic knife stuff, we will jump into that. Bang, bang. Another minion has assembled. He says, oh, I cannot wait. Missed last week, but I'll see y'all soon. Leland Phil is here in the house, another minion who comes in all the time. He says, I'll be lurking while working as usual. That's okay. This is one of those lives you'll be able to listen to. So just hopefully you can put the volume up loud enough to hear what's going on. My man Gonzo, one of my moderators, is in the house as well. And speaking of that, I'd like to throw out a few thank yous. So I want to thank you to everyone who comes into the live chat every week. I want to thank everyone who replays the live chat because they can't be here in live, who replays the stream and watches every week. There's a lot of people like that, like Uncle Kyle, for instance. Everyone who watches on a mobile device, I know it's harder to participate in chats and type on mobile devices, so I get that, but I appreciate you watching anyway. And obviously, anybody who just listens. If you're just a listener, you're going to like tonight. There'll be plenty of stuff to listen to. So again, thank you to all of those people. And thank you to Gonzo and Mimo, my two awesome moderators, and Bama Ninja, my honorary moderator. I want to thank them for being part of the channel, as well as all of you folks that are here live tonight. Let's see who else we got here. We got Bang Bang, another minion. Alan Grey Wolf, one of my older minions. He's got the drooble there on the screen. I freaking love those things. Let's see who else we got. Of course, there's Michael Morgan. He's calling out to all minions. Please assemble in the lair. All right. Byron Kennedy, one of my longtime minions. He says, howdy, Eionan's Edge, Gonzo, Michael Morgan, and all the minions here today. I'll be looking for a while as I need to clean out the truck before it goes to the shop tomorrow. Very good, sir. Don't forget to hit the like button. You can listen. This will be a live stream you'll enjoy listening to just as much as watching. So if you have a chance to just listen, that's cool as well. David Iverson's in the house throwing out some greetings, another one of my longtime minions. And he's also throwing some prayers out for Mrs. Edge and myself during this trying time while we're going through her cancer treatments. So I appreciate that very much, David. Thank you. Will B is lurking, but that's okay. Again, pop in, hit the like button, and spend some time listening. That's fine. All right. Let's see what else we got going on here. Who do we got in here? Stephen Wallace is here. Thanks, Stephen. There will be a cool part two to Storytellers tonight. Grumpy Grunt is in the house. The Grumpy One is with us. There he is. Bam. Top Dog is here. Says, always like hitting that like button. Bobo Schnoggins is in here too. I think a lot of these people want to hear the next phase in the saga of my dad. Native Wildman's here. He says, hi, Eionan. Love and prayers from Mrs. Edge. I'm going to take a look at your schedule again. I think you and I might be able to touch base by phone this week, Wildman. So I will do my best to make that happen if at all possible, okay? Probably over the next couple days, but if not, shortly thereafter. Blades Hook Daniel's in the house too. He says, hello, kids. Today I could be present. Cool. Well, hopefully, Daniel, you remember last week's live storyteller time, because this week we're going to have part two. All right. Who else do we have here? Rob Nice is in here as well, throwing out some greetings. Another minion that's popped in tonight. Ed Harrison is here as well. He says, what's up, Eionan's Edge, and everyone on the road listening? Listening's going to be fine. You're going to like listening, especially if you folks caught last week's. Mike Reese is back here again this week. Cool. Welcome in. Welcome down to the Minions Lair. Lots of greetings going on here. Blades with Daniel saying hello to people. Devil Dog is in the house saying, hoorah, hoorah, brother. Another fellow Marine in here, him and Grumpy in the house. All right. So, yeah, so we're doing pretty good here. We've got 25 people in here already. Honey Bear's here this week, too. Top of the Tuesday to you. And a cold, frosty brew, sir. Oh, how did that kick back on? There we go. Let's fix that. There we go. Inbox chats. All right, good to go. Prayers for you and the wife. Thank you very much to all of you folks who've sent thoughts and prayers to us. Obviously, we're not the only people in the community that are hurting. I will talk a little bit about the Jason Brown thing once we get a little bit further on here into this segment. But yes, the community has had a kind of a rough week. But Mrs. Edge and I are both doing really well. We're doing good. So Aberdeen Blades, another minion, has assembled tonight. David Iverson says being on a mobile device isn't too difficult. Yeah, but there are some things you can't do on a mobile device as far as YouTube is concerned. So it is a little more difficult. It can be difficult to type on those things too. I hate it. That's why I usually, if I'm following on mobile, I don't usually type out a lot of specific greetings, but more generalizations. It's just too hard for me. I always end up hitting the wrong buttons and stuff. Eye is really dry tonight. Oh, okay. Let's see here. All right, so that looks pretty good. It looks like we've caught most of the folks that have piled in here in the first 5 or 10 minutes. So I really like that. That's good. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. So we got some thank yous out. I will remind again later on in the broadcast, but I want to also tell everyone that the word of the week submissions are open. So if you forgot last week or you weren't here last week, and you don't know, I will cover this one more. Yeah, yeah, it can put you to sleep. That particular one there, but I follow you, man, my boy. Let's see. Yeah, so Double Dog says on the phone at the moment. So, word of the week. So most of you guys who've been in my stream know that I have a word of the week every week. I've had 16 or 17 of them, I think. Pretty much one a week for 17 weeks, I think, until about 3 weeks ago. So I'm stopping those for the rest of the year. But submissions for the word of the week giveaway, which will be happening over the holidays, are open now. So send your words of the week. If you got them all, great. If you got at least five correct words, you will be entered. But you have to email me those words along with your YouTube user ID, just so I know who you are, because I know a lot of your names, but I don't know everybody's. So send me your YouTube user ID, because that's what we're going to draw by, and send me all the words you have. I have received 7 submissions from last week, and all 7 of those people had all the words, every one of the words. So if you have 5 words you're in the contest, every additional word you have beyond that will get you an extra entry. And if you have all the words, you will be receiving 5 additional entries on top of those. So right now, only 7 folks have entered. And I'll tell you right now that they're going to be pretty happy if they have a 1 in 7 chance of winning the word of the week grand prize drawing that I do. Let's see who else is in here tonight. Let's see. Iggy's in the house. All right. Another one of my longtime minions. Jared White's here, giving out some greetings. Again, we will have Storytime Part 2 tonight. You don't want to miss it. Michael, thank you for throwing up the Campfire Leatherworks logo. Link. Appreciate that. Let's see. Freedom Frog's in here too. Freedom Frog, I haven't seen you in a bit, brother. Good to see you down here in the stream. You're going to like Storytime tonight. And if you happen to miss last week's stream and you want to go back and catch the part 1, you could do that. Obviously, that was last week's live. And I think a lot of you folks are going to like that. I'm going to try to get through. Yes, Gonzo's posting Mimo's amazing shorts. Mimo has been putting up some content, doing a lot of shorts. And I really dig what he's doing there so far. So it's good to have him putting content up and being part of the community in a bigger, more involved way. And I think everybody's really digging what you're doing, Mimo. So thank you. All right, so let's see. What else have I got for you guys? So again, don't forget to send in your word of the week submissions. I'm probably going to let those run through late November, so you got time. But get them in, because what we're doing is we're actually creating actual little raffle draw slips for each person. They will be hand drawn in the live stream, probably by the talented one who resides over there in that corner of the house, Mrs. Edge. So you're not going to want to miss out on a chance to have her draw you as the winner of that contest during the holidays. So if you have words of the week, get them in. Okay. A shout out to ProX. Yep. To ProX 1840, Brother Bill. Absolutely. So actually, that was going to be the next thing I talked about. So it's been a very difficult week for the knife community. We lost somebody who was a pillar, who's irreplaceable to this community. Jason Brown. I'm still crushed over it. I can't. It's hard for me to wrap my head around it. One of the nicest, most genuine guys out there. I told on the Matt's Live last week that basically he was the first person. When I came into the knife community before I was a content creator, I remember seeing him in a lot of the live streams that I would get in and I would lurk around in and watch and catch information and stuff. And he was always very friendly to everybody. But then when I started my own channel, he was one of the first people that contacted me through my Gmail account for the channel and said, "Hey, congratulations. Glad to have another content creator in here. Hope you do well. If there's anything I could do for you." And then when I decided to do live streams after being on Maddie's channel a couple times, Jason emailed me and said, "Hey, I'll be there. I'll be at your first live, even if I'm the only person there, but I promise you I won't be, because there will be other people there, but I will be at your first live." That meant a lot to me. It really did. To have somebody that really didn't know me that well reach out to me and be so supportive. So I will always hold a special place in my heart for Jason. I had a few, emails and short conversations with him back and forth after that too. Great guy. And he is going to be missed in this community. So I just want everybody to take a moment and remember Jason. All right. So along with that, we got a fair amount of people in here tonight already. I would like to start throwing up pocket checks. I'm not going to ask for anything special on pocket checks tonight, because basically what I want to do is I want to get through the content and the information I have to give you to get to Storyteller part 2. So that's what we're going to do. So you can start throwing up your pocket checks whenever you guys are ready. Yeah, Freedom Frogs Gear says Jason's flipping blades in the sky. I'm sure he is. Right? No limit on what you can have up there. Right? You could sleep on a bed of Arius if you really want to, right? So who knows? But I'm sure that Jason's doing all right. Jason was always a friend. I totally agree. Yep. Darnell B85, another minion has assembled here in the house tonight. Awesome. Gonzo says he's flipping his Axion. That's a knife that's on to put in my collection list. QSP Leopard. Native Wild Man is carrying a QSP Leopard, QSP Hawk, a Case Mini Fin, a Texas Toothpick Witch's Brew, and a green wallet. Very nice, sir. By the way, speaking of wallets, hey, sweetheart, can you bring me your wallet? Okay, she's coming. The love of my life. She probably won't come on camera, but she's coming. She's coming. Let me do a few more of these while I'm waiting. Thank you, hon. All right. So let's see here. Who else we got? So Blade took Daniel's got a Kaiser Bag Leader XL and a Chevalier. Bang Bang's got a wee mini Malice and with a BGM hollow grind. Oh, nice. Reground Malice. That's cool. Will B's got the biggins. Grimsmo Norseman, Benchmade 950 Rift, Concept Predatout, Titanium Tanto, Savivi Chevalier, and Olay Baton 3, and an Everyman Grafton pen. It's for sale? Well, you and I might have to talk there, brother. We'll talk later after the live. Let's see. Tucson Titanium Tanto Tuesday for Michael Morgan. Jared White's got the F5.5 and Asher Spiro with the thumb hole. Bobo Schnoggins has the off-grid Stinger. Joe Kasprick. Joe Kasprick has the Towser K, a Bestech Beluga, and a Phoenix PD 36R. Freedom Frog, Bestech Samurai, Hope Deca Warncliffe. That's one of my favorite knives. I call it the Bug Out Killer. Cold Steel SR1 Tanto and a Spyderco Caribbean. I do not know what a Caribbean is. Let's see. Mike Reese, KFC, Ebony Urban Bowie, Kaiser Hiccup, and a Mini Beluga. Iggy says hello. She says, yay, hello, Mrs. Edge. I hope your evening's going well. She's doing pretty well. She had a pretty good day today. We actually went out to lunch today. We took a small road trip, and we went out and sat at a place with nice views of the mountains here in Arizona and ate some lunch. And she actually was able to go out and do that and felt well enough to do that today. So it was a very good day. Let's just put it that way. More wishes to you. People hoping that you're doing well. Yep. So that's good. David Iverson is carrying a Hinder Eclipse Bowie and Battle Bronze tie, a Case Carhartt single blade mini trapper, Baby B CRKT minimalist Bowie in D2, an Olight I5R tie, an Olight Arc Feld, a Rule number 9 coin, a Navy coin, and a Forrest Hank. That's a lot of stuff, David. Lots of greetings going on. Top Dog's got the Shieldin Tour Tank crazy, but it's crazy butter smooth. Yeah, the Shieldins, they're well-made knives. They are. Alan Graywolf's got the Shieldin Empoleon. Okay, good deal. Old Fart with Sharp Things. Thank you for coming in. Another minion has assembled. Good vibes. Yep. Freak Show. Jeremy, what's going on? Howdy, howdy. On my way from a long day at work, very stressful at the end. Well, you do want to listen, even if you're driving home and it's going to take you a while. You want to listen because Storytellers Part 2 Freak Show is happening in a little bit as soon as I get through the main knife content here. More greetings for Mrs. Edge. She's as popular as I am, probably more. She's the talented one here. I'm just a storyteller guy with lots of knives. Neil is in the house somewhere. I might have missed him in the chat, but he's here. Lots of greetings going out. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Rob Nice says he's got a Hogue Deca and a Rough Rider apt to tie. Iggy says, glad. Also, that's awesome. I'm so glad you and Mrs. Edge had a great day today. We did. We did. Actually, the first place we drove to, their website said they were open, but then we got there and they said, no, we're not serving food today. So we had to drive back from there, which is kind of a bummer. But we found a secondary place that we liked and had a nice lunch. And it was nice to get out of the house and spend part of the afternoon with her away from home for a change. So that's part of our vacation plan, is to try to do a little bit of that where we can. Also, I missed a shout out to or I didn't do shout outs, did I? No, I didn't do shout outs. Let's do those real quick while I'm looking at the rest of your pocket check. So I want to do shout outs, of course, to Mrs. Edge, who's having a pretty good day today. Unfortunately, tomorrow's chemo again, so that will kind of kick her in the butt, but she's tough. So obviously, shout out to my beautiful, wonderful wife, Mrs. Edge. Nick Riggy from Riggy Knives. The guy's been awesome. Him and I have talked on the phone and a little bit through Instagram. And if you haven't gone and checked out the review I did on my channel of the Riggy Jersey prototype, you need to go take a look at it. You're not going to want to forget about that knife when it releases later this year or early in 2023. That is a knife you're going to want to buy. So go over to my channel and take a look at the review on the prototype. I also want to shout out Lefty. Kevin is a good guy, and he behind the scenes he's helped me out a good bit. And I want to shout him and Colin out as well from Debo Knives. The Arizona Meetup Group, we will be meeting this Saturday. There will be probably 6, maybe 7 of us. We'll see how that goes. But that'll be fun. Lots of knives, lots of pictures to show you guys. Probably throw up a short during the meetup once we get all the knives laid out back there. That whole counter is going to be full of knives. And Mattisfaction. He's not in here yet. I will call him out again when he does get in here, but I want to shout out Maddie. Maddie had the tough job of having his live happen right after the community in general got the news about Jason. And it is not an easy thing to go on and have that news and have to put that news out there. I know that he might have debated whether he should even have a live, but I want to give major props out to Mattisfaction for doing that live stream. It was nice. It was perfect. It let the community come together and all of us kind of grieve and share our thoughts initially and try to accept what tragedy had taken place. Not an easy thing to do. I think Matt really, really did a great job on that, and I feel like he needs an amazing shout out on that. All right, so let's move on with some more comments. Will says, helping the wife around the house, listening and commenting every now and then. That's fine, brother. I appreciate that. Looking for some more pocket checks to see if they're in there. We got some stuff being thrown out, so that's good. Lots of greetings, people greeting everyone. Richard Campbell, longtime Minions in the house. He said, just got off work. Hope you're all having a great day. Well, good. I hope you had a chance to go back and listen to part 1 from last week. But if you didn't, you're still going to enjoy part 2 tonight. Marcos Gamma just passing through right quick, brother. Eionan's Edge. All right, you're going to want to catch the replay of this, though, when you get the chance, because part 2 of Storytellers is going to be in this live stream, and you're not going to want to miss that. All right, but thank you for stopping by, Marcos. Much love to you always. I always appreciate having you in the stream, brother. Always. Darnell says only once a month shot, 1,100 chemo shot. Good thing for insurance. Yeah, they're expensive. That's yeah, I think by the time we finish paying deductible for both years of the plan, which unsadly switched right in the middle of all this, I think we're going to end up probably about 40 grand poorer than we were before, at least. Yep. Gonzo says, Maddie is the whole reason I'm in this community. Yes, Matt did a fantastic job last week, and he really deserves a lot of credit for that. So more greetings going on. That's good. Let me see what else I got to cover with you guys, because I really want to get through this content so that we can talk a little bit more and I'll have time to do the storytellers properly. I don't even know if I can get through it all tonight. Maybe we will. There might be a part 3. You never know. This Friday's knife review is going to be on the Jason Grant gripper. This is the production prototype, which is 99.9% the knife that ended up being produced by Best Tech. That will be this Friday's review. I will be doing a review on that. Let me show you what my pocket check was real quick. We'll start out with a Swiss Army Knife Classic. Mrs. Edge Fidget 2.0 small fidget ball. An Olight i5R EOS. A sneak peek at next week's knife review. See this logo? QSP, right? Premium slip joint, baby. The QSP Hedgehog. What do you think of that little bad boy, huh? And that's a cool knife. And yes, at long last, I have finally slipped into the Devo Stout. There it is. Got my own Devo Stout finally, and I freaking love it. And I've got a green Mrs. Edge tank there. So that is what I am carrying today, in case anybody was wondering. But that QSP Hedgehog will be next week's knife review. So just so you guys know. Oh yeah, the Hedgehog is, I'm telling you right now, if they price it right, if it's in the price category they think it's going to be in, and we think it's going to be in as reviewers and members of that group, it's going to sell fantastically for them. It is a seriously well-designed slip joint. The final lockup on this when it opens is so good that you almost can't press it closed. Like it takes some effort to get this baby to go back up there again, right? So this is going to be a home run for QSP. I know there's going to be at least 2 colorways. I don't know if there'll be more, probably in the future, but it is built like a premium slip joint. So yes, QSP's a good brand. Yep. Slip joints return. Yeah, but the thing is, these are all premium slip joints, right? These aren't your old, like, you're cutting with it and you get a little backlash on the blade and it wants to go to the half closed notch. These are serious slip joints. These are really nicely made slip joints, and this is going to be in a budget slash affordable price point. This is not going to be a $250 slip joint, guys. This is going to probably, I'm guessing, is probably going to come in the $50 to $70 price range, which I think is very good for what it has for steel and the micarta and all the actual fit and finish of the knife is really good. So that will be next week's knife, and that's just a little sneak peek because obviously I'm not going to be doing a lot of content between now and then. I do want to throw out one more shout out here, and this has to do with one of my minions, one of my longtime subscribers, channel members, live stream viewers, who recently started their own, or at least started advertising on Instagram, their own leatherwork company. So please get that link ready there, Mimo or Gonzo, because I got a couple of things in from Campfire Leatherworks. Okay. So Mrs. Edge wanted a closable wallet. Beautiful. Okay. This one's a finer grain, a little thinner leather. So it's a little more supple, but she wanted something that she could stash some cash and basic credit cards and things like that in, and her driver's license. Gorgeous work on this thing. Looks amazing. Leathers smells and looks great. Stitching's fantastic. And then I wanted a logoed lighter brown but slightly heavier grain of leather with my logo on it. Look at that thing. That thing came out freaking beautiful, right? So I just wanted a basic trifold. So I want to go out and I just want to have my driver's license with me, and I want to bring credit and a debit card and some cash. I've been used this today. We went out to lunch, and that's all I need, right? I don't need everything else. I could put my CCW in there or whatever too if I wanted. And I go and just slip that in my back pocket. Look how thin this thing is. Look how thin this thing is. This thing's amazing. And of course, it's got my logo on that side and the Campfire Leatherworks logo on the back. So if you haven't gone over to Instagram and checked out Iggy's stuff, you need to do it, because this is quality leather goods, guys. Really, really quality leather goods. And I am forever grateful for her for agreeing to make these for us. But she has a lot of cool products she's capable of making. So go check them out, guys. All right. I really think that you'll be happy with the stuff that you get from Iggy. Yeah, it is a beautiful wallet. Absolutely. And I love the fact that, I just told her I wanted the logo kind of not too big on the wallet. I said, I want it just kind of as a little moniker. And I think that's a perfect size. Like, I didn't want it to take up the whole front. I wanted to really be able to see all the leather grains and all this nice hand stitching. Gorgeous. All right. So yes, a very nice looking stuff. I agree totally, Darnell. It's all of it looks amazing. And then that, again, there are plenty of people out there doing leather work, but if you want to support somebody who's a very integrated part of this community who is doing leather work now, go check out Campfire Leatherworks. Matter of fact, yeah, there we go. The Gonzo got to it. Campfire Leatherworks at Instagram. All right. So go check it out. That is Iggy. Yes, yeah. Some people they're like, nice work, man. Very cool. Right? So yes, beautiful wallet. I totally agree. All right. So a couple of quick things. There'll be a slight delay in getting episode 7 of Fully Deployed out. Why? Because I decided to take some time off. When I first started talking about having the next episode out before the end of this month, which is Friday, I hadn't decided to take time off completely from the channel. But now that I've decided to do that, that will probably be pushed back a couple weeks. So you'll get that in the early half of October. So keep your eyes out for that. Yep, Bang Bang says, got to go check you out. Right? Old Fart says, following, going to check it out for sure. And Iggy, thank you. And it was fun making them, as Mrs. Edge discovered the hidden ribbon. Oh, apparently not. Love of my life. Center of my universe. There's a hidden ribbon inside your wallet. I'm going to leave it here for you. Somewhere in there, apparently. There's some kind of hidden ribbon in there. So she said, thanks so very much. Yeah. So she's all smiles. She's going to take it over to her studio and start looking through it and see what she finds. So slight delay in episode 7 of Floyd Play. I already have a script written. I have everything ready to go. I do have to make a one little prop for it, so that will come out, but it'll just be slightly delayed until after our vacation is officially over. They keep bringing the heat. I totally agree. I totally agree. I have to say, like, I looked at the pictures and I was impressed by the stuff I saw, but when I got the actual wallets in my hand, I was really blown away at how amazing the quality is on them. I mean, this is going to be my going out, don't need a lot of stuff wallet for a long time. As a matter of fact, I'm so impressed with this, I might buy another one in a different color. So anyway, just throwing that out there, guys. They're really nice. So slightly on fully deployed episode 7. Another knife that's going to be coming out pretty soon. I just received this finally. If you've ever bought a Tucson that has to come from China, you know it's maddeningly. You have to have a lot of patience. I got my own Dracula. Yep, there it is. I got my own Tucson TS 138, full titanium and M390. Beautiful knife. Multiple swages on this blade. The grind is incredible. Humongous finger choil. Look at the size of that bad boy. So now I won't have to bother Cue Ball and keep trying to get him to sell me his because I have my own. So that just came recently too. So I'm pretty stoked about it. And I have 4 knives here that have to be reviewed after I come back from vacation right away. So plenty of content coming after vacation, guys. All right. The QSP Hawk is a great work, but the QSP Hawk is an awesome knife, actually. As a matter of fact, a special QSP Hawk is one of the knives I have to review, but I also own one of those as well, and I really like it. Started Instagram. It's easy as YouTube, and you can post pictures at Nave. Yes, I agree, Nave Wildman. Instagram can all be done off your phone if that's all you have. It's really easy to post pictures. It's really easy to throw up content. It's a pretty easy format, and there's a ton of us over there. Like, I would say 90% of the knife community is over there. Beast mode. That knife is a chonky knife. That knife is a chunky knife. Yes, for sure. It is a beast, no doubt. And I just love it. It's going to see a lot of carry time for me now that I managed to finally wait forever and get one sent over to me from Tucson's special China warehouse. Hey, you should be blushing, Iggy. Your work is really quality. It's really good. Okay, so it's 4:03. We got about an hour. So without further ado, I think I covered most of the stuff I need to cover with you. One more time while there's 30 people in here. If you have words of the week and you have at least 5 of them, please send them to my email address, eionansedge@gmail.com. I'm going to give you probably all of October and at least a fair percentage of November to do that. But please don't wait till the last minute if you have words, because I'm going to be hand cutting all the raffle entries along with my lovely wife. She will be drawing them. That will be the top. I repeat, it will be the top holiday gift during my holiday celebration. The non-word of the week one will be very close, but not quite as nice. So you're going to want to make sure that if you got words of the week, you get them into me so that you can become part of that drawing. I love the Hawk. I want to bless you. The Hawk is a very cool knife. I have the Sky Blue Micarta one, and I really dig that knife a lot. But the nicer version of the Hawk I have here for review. So you're going to love seeing that one. Okay. Anyway, let's see, where were we at? We're going to go to story time, I think. That's what's going to happen. I think we're just going to move into story time. I've got about 55 minutes, and that might just be enough to tell this portion, part 2. So without further ado, without wasting a lot more time, can you please repeat the email? The email is Eionan's Edge, just like my channel, but with no spaces, @gmail.com. If you go to my channel and you hit the About thing, it actually lists my email in the About section, where I tell you a little bit about myself and the channel, and then right below there has my email address. So if anybody needs to get that correct, that's what it is. But please send your words of the week to me. I'm going to give you guys plenty of time to do that. You're not going to want to miss out on your opportunity to at least have a chance to at least get an entry if you have enough words in the word of the week holiday giveaway. Next year, I'm going to do word of the month. I'm going to make it a little easier on everybody. I'm still going to ask you to write down 12 words. Okay. Anyway, here we go. So last week, I got a tremendous response to storytellers. So gather around, children, get your blankets, get your pillows, grab your drinks and your sippy cups, right? Pull your little yellow selves together in a huddle, like the minions always do inside the lair, and get ready for story time part 2. So last week I explained from inception, from birth, all the way up to about early mid 40s. I gave you the story of my father's life, right? And it was a really good story. It really was. I was really nervous telling the story because all I did was had some outline notes, and I basically just kind of made sure I hit some key points and tried to tell that in less than an hour. The response I got to that was amazing. It was overwhelming. So many people liked it. People contacted me through Instagram and through email and some other, you know, some other ways, and just basically, there was a lot of likes for the video. So anyway, thank you. There's a secondary reason I'm trying to sort of tell this story. One, because I feel that it's something I would like to tell. It's not easy to do. But two, the internet is forever. So if all this stuff with Mrs. Edge has taught me one thing, is that you can never depend on being around in 20 more years. I have 2 grandchildren, one who's 3 and one who's not even a year old. And someday they're going to want to know who their grandfather was. And they're going to probably want to know who their great grandfather was on both sides of the family, right? Well, I'm going to leave this record, but I'm not going to sugarcoat this. So I will tell you this before I start. Last thing I'm going to say, this is the darker side, the darker period of the story of my father Les. Okay? This is mid 40s. He's just left the profession. He's been his whole life disillusioned, wants to build something for himself, wants to start his own business, wants to forge out on his own and create something. And there's a lot of success, but there's also a lot of darker material here. So I'm just preparing you for that, right? I'm not going to spin this web that he was a perfect man all the way through his life, because that wouldn't be a real story. That wouldn't be the truth. It wouldn't be interesting. Okay. So you know how he grew up. If you've watched episode 1, I'm going to get to the rest. So here we go. So I left off where he decided to leave his job as a longtime master welder, disillusioned with the fact that even though he told people there was going to be a disaster, they didn't listen to him, and the disaster happened anyway. Thankfully, no one died in that particular disaster. But not long after that, a friend of his who he worked with and who owned the race team that he also was part of the crew on, they were good friends. And he came to him and he said, "Hey, you know what? I think I want to start a business, and you and I should start that business together. It should be something industrial, mechanically related, something that we can make some money at." And he goes, "I know, as brilliant as you are with mechanical things, you're going to be able to do this, and we're going to be successful." So that's how the partnership started. So now I'll give you a little bit of background about his partner. His partner worked with him in one of the last jobs that he had, and they respected each other. And his partner owned a racing team. My father was the head fabricator and chassis person on that team. And that team won 4 track championships in the premier division. They won a bunch of big races. They were very well known at that period in time in the racing community. So they were very successful, and they had a good driver. They had basically a New England Motorsports Hall of Fame caliber driver who won 4 championships with that team. So people knew who they were. And one of the things they did was they bought a lot of auto parts, right? Because back in those days of racing, cars were not quite as high tech as they are today. So you go to an auto parts store and buy a lot of parts that you needed, right? And they got to know the guy who owned the auto parts store. And the guy who owned the auto parts store said, "Hey, you guys should start a business, and I'll help you a little bit get going." And if you manufacture these products and rebuild these products, I will buy them. And I will tell other people to buy them. And so that's how they got started. So when they started this business, my dad was working out of our basement in our house, and his partner was working out of one corner of the race shop garage. You had a multi-bay garage. And then they really started working there. And then eventually, after they sold enough product and they realized, hey, this could work, they rented a building. And that's how they get started. Right. So they went from working in basements and their garages out behind their house to opening their own store. And it was a time in his life where he was really happy and he was really proud to finally be working for himself, to finally be making money for himself. But he told me later, in later years, he goes, it was terrifying. He goes, I've got a wife, I've got technically 6 kids. I've got a mortgage, I've got car payments, and I just decided to basically, throw away a pretty profitable career as a welder and do something for myself. It's a big step. So he starts the business from the basement in the garage. They move into their first building. They're selling stuff through the auto parts store. Now they're starting to get other clients. They're getting garages, industrial clients, construction people, commercial fishing boats. So the business is starting to grow a lot. It's growing a good amount. And there's some failures along the way there too. For instance, they expanded. We had more stores. They went from 1 store to 2 stores, right? And then from 2 stores to 3 stores. And this all happened in the span of, I don't know, 5 years maybe, right? So from basement and garage to, we got 3 stores, okay? And at one point they had 2, 3, 5 stores, but there's a story. So the failures, this is one of the failures that they had. They tried to open a lot of stores and they tried to look for other people who wanted to get in on this. And they felt like, we'll tell you how to do this. It was kind of like early franchiseeing, right? We'll set you up, right? And we'll get you going. Well, they tried to open a store in Waterbury, Connecticut. And the partner that they had, they went in, they paid for the lease agreement. They got some basic things to get them set up. And months later, the person still hadn't done anything. They went back there and everything looked just the way it did. Well, come to find out, the guy stole the money that they gave him and never invested in the store, never created the business, just took their money and ran. And because they didn't have an ironclad legal agreement with him, because all the other stores they'd opened, they'd found people they knew, and it was all done, through handshakes and the way that a lot of things were done back in those days, they just lost all their money. So there were some tough times too. But they got past that. My dad worked. He was pretty much a workaholic. He was around, but he worked a lot. And success came and money came. Stores all started raking in cash. We started doing really good, right? We raced go-karts and quarter midgets, and my older brother raced late models and later Busch Grand National cars, which is the Xfinity cars you see on television in NASCAR. That was the division he raced in, the regional division for that. So there was a lot of success and there was a lot of money. But when you're a kid who grows up on the streets of Hartford, and you have to fight for your shoe shine spot, and you go out and box people, right, out of your weight class to earn money, you're driven to succeed and you're driven to have all the things that you see other people around you have. He'd always wanted that. He always wanted his own business, right? My dad bought a Corvette, right? It's a pretty expensive car for somebody who's 5 or 6 years into owning their own business, but things are going well. But the ego kicks in, right? I need a nicer car. I need a Corvette. I'm a family man. my own business, but I need a Corvette. And then the other darker side of things kicks in, where my father starts going behind my mother's back and carrying on some affairs. So yes, all right, that happened. And it might have been happening earlier. Probably it was happening when he was traveling around welding, but not to the extent that it did once he was financially stable and he was able to spend more cash and go out more and be away from home more. That temptation apparently was very great for him. So that begins to happen. And, I see little glimpses of it as a kid, but, I'm 9, 10 years old. And around when I'm 11, I used to go roller skating. Okay, so I don't know how many people remember that, but I used to go roller skating. I also played ice hockey, but I used to go roller skating too. And we go to the skating rink, and I noticed that my dad starts skating, doing this dance skating that he was doing there all the time with a young, busty, well-endowed, fairly pretty brunette woman. Now, my dad at the time is probably, in his early 50s, maybe around 50 years old. And this woman is in her mid-30s, so she's younger. And you got to remember, my mom is around my dad's age. My mom's actually a bit older. But I'm not totally dumb. I'm not totally clueless at 11 years old. And I noticed that we keep going skating all the time. He keeps spending all his time at the skating rink with this woman. Yeah. So what I'll call her is the younger model, right? My dad decides that he has to have this younger model. And once he made that decision, it throws the entire world around him, everyone who's in his life, it throws all of our lives into chaos, right? My mom knows what's going on. My sisters know what's going on. My brothers know what's going on. I now know what's going on because me, dumbass me, at 11 years old, I'm in that, right? I'm there. I watched it happen. I just wasn't quite old enough to really put the pieces together of what was happening until it actually happened. Now, I love my dad and I love my mom. But, I worked with my dad. I went places with my dad. I went racing with my dad. We did a lot of stuff together. So when my parents split, I kind of favored going with my dad, right? I had lived in that house my whole life. I'm like, this is kind of exciting. We're going to do something new. You don't really realize when you're 11 years old how much these decisions affect people. This devastated my mom, devastated her. So I'm 11 years old. My parents get divorced. And my dad is worried about holding on to his wealth. Which a lot of guys are when they get divorced. He's worried about holding on to his wealth because he's worked his butt off his whole life. And now he's put in a half a dozen or so years in this business to build it from a basement and a garage to multiple stores and lots of success, all earned through blood, sweat, and tears. And he feels like ain't nobody taking that away from him. That's not how the legal system works. And that's not really what's fair if you're the person who destroyed a marriage. So chaos ensues, big divorce ensues, and lots of manipulation from my father. He decides that he's going to convince me to live with him no matter what. We get an apartment. I'm going to school. I'm making some new friends. The state comes and talks to me, and they ask me, who do you want to live with? Probably at 11 years old, the hardest decision you will ever have to make in your life in concerning your family is whether you want to live with your mother or your father. And my father was very manipulative. He was just like, hey, you got to come live with me, right? You don't want to live with your mother, right? You've already done that. Like, come live with me. We got this nice apartment. You go to school. You're happy. So he wins me over, right? He gets custody of me in court. Soon as the divorce paperwork is dry, my dad moves out of the apartment. We move into his younger model wife, his future wife's house, and they start planning a wedding. Yeah. Well, I feel like a sucker. Hmm? And everything then was about him and them getting married. And she had a couple of stepsons who were all older than me. So this period of his life was all about him. It was all about himself. It wasn't about how anybody else in the family felt. And he felt justified in feeling this way because he felt, and he told me this in later years, he said, I was wrong. I was completely self-centered. I was completely being narcissistic. But I felt like I'd worked hard my whole life and I'd built a business with a partner and I'd earned all that success and I'd earned all that money. And we're not talking about like he wasn't a millionaire. We were upper middle class family who was doing pretty well, but he worked his butt off to make it to that place. And he said, I felt like I deserved it. Felt like I deserved it. And that's all I could think about. I wanted to get what I deserved. So driven as a child, as a young adult, as a grown adult, to succeed and to garner respect and admiration and feel like you were being paid and rewarded for the work that you were doing and the effort that you were putting in. So now he started his own business, worked his butt off, made it successful pretty quickly, but he wanted more, right? Isn't that what greed's all about? Isn't that what ego and hubris is all about? You want more. Gotta have more. Gotta have a Corvette. Can't drive a family car, right? Gotta have fancy things. Gotta date better looking women. Gotta date younger women. So needless to say, all this chaos really took an effect on our whole family. Obviously devastated my mom. And I began to see that every time I went back and spent time with my mom for visitation. I saw how much this whole situation had destroyed the family that we had. So I'm living at his new wife now. They're married. I'm living at his new wife's house. I've been there about a year or two. My older stepbrothers, one of them was a bully. The other one was nice to me, but didn't really care if I was being bullied. And life really sucked. It really did. It was a terrible time in my life. I was not a happy kid. I was not supported. I most of the time came home and went to my room, unless I was doing something with my dad. I rued the day I had to do anything with my stepbrothers because they didn't give a shit about me. I'm not trying to weave a tale of woe here. For me, I'm going to tell you why this part of the story is significant. I got to a place for just a brief moment in my life. I was probably about 13. It's about 2 years after the divorce, where I didn't want to go on. I didn't want to go on living in that house. I didn't want to go on dealing with being treated the way I was being treated. I didn't want to go on. Hope everybody understands what I'm trying to say. So I had a conversation in the yard one night with my dad. He came home. He asked me why I was moping around all the time. And I said, you don't see this? You don't understand what I feel? I'm 13, remember? And my dad's like, no, what have you got to be sad about? Right? We have a business, we have a house, you live on a farm, there's horses, there's a barn, you can ride motorcycles, you can shoot guns, you can do all these things you love to do. And I said, yeah, but I'm not happy here. This is not the life I want. And he said, well, what is it that you want? And I said, I don't know. I said, but I'm going to tell you something, Dad. I don't want to be here anymore. He goes, what do you mean you don't want to be here anymore? I said, I don't want to be here anymore. Now, what I was really saying to my dad, even though I didn't realize at that moment when I kind of yelled this out to him, was, I don't want to be alive in this situation. Despite all of the self-centered, narcissistic things that he had done and was still going through, this is what happened after I said those words. My father came over to me. He gave me a hug. And he said, I understand. He said, I love you. Please give me a couple of days and I will make this situation right for you. I promise you with everything in my heart and soul, give me a couple of days and I will fix this situation. And he looked me in the eye and he said, can you do that for me? Can you just give me a couple days? I had tears in my eyes and I said, yes, I can. I'll give you a couple days. He said, okay. That was probably somewhere in the middle of the week because I remember going to school that day. Friday after school comes. My father picks me up from school, drives me back to the house, and he goes, pack as many of your clothes as you can fit into those 2 suitcases. Take whatever belongings you feel like you need for now. Get it all packed up and take it out, put it in the car. He goes, don't talk to anybody. Don't engage your stepbrothers. Don't engage my wife. Pack up your stuff, put it in the car. I did exactly what he said. I got in the car. We drove out of the driveway. I said, where are we going? He goes, where do you think we're going? You're going to live with your mother. He goes, because I'm not going to lose my son. No matter what else you might think of everything I just told you about my dad, and that's not even all the bad stuff. That doesn't include the stuff I'm about to get to. He still had the presence of mind as a father to listen to what I was saying to him. He knew that I was in a bad place. He knew that I wasn't meant to be in that family unit. That wasn't the life that I needed. And he took me out of that situation and sent me back to live with my mother, which was the best thing that ever happened for me. But the point I'm trying to make here is that even amidst all the chaos that was going on in his own life, and there was a lot of it, even after his marriage, he still was a good enough dad to listen to what I was telling him as a 13-year-old kid who was extremely, extremely depressed and extremely, extremely unhappy. That's powerful stuff, guys. At least it is to me. And it affected the way I looked at all my future relationships going forward. So I go back to live with my mom. And I'm pretty happy about that because all my old friends are there and I get to go, middle school and high school with the people that I grew up with, and right. And I still go home or I still go back and see my dad and still spend time on the farm and minimize the amount of contact I have with my stepbrothers, right? And the thing with them is, they grew up different. I don't really so much blame them. They had a not so great father. They escaped a broken home and domestic abuse and lots of other things that happened to them. So I don't put all the blame on them. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But it was a bad situation. But right at the time, right around the same time I moved back to my mom's, and this is what makes my dad's decision to get me out of that house in just a couple of days all that more poignant. Pretty much right after I moved back in with my mom, my dad's partnership in his business dissolves. He finds out that his partner, who he's known for 20 years and who they started a business together with, his partner has been arrested for dealing cocaine out of one of their stores. And there is connections to a prostitution ring, which my father, at least on the periphery, was involved with. Right? Wasn't actively part of it, but he pretty much knew something was going on and turned a blind eye to that part of things because the business was successful. He had a lot of stresses in his life. He had a new wife, a new family. He was dealing with a son who was unhappy. So he kind of let that stuff go. And he basically, no, it wasn't a RICO case, but But Gonzo's asking questions. But he basically had all this stuff going on, and this all came to a head. Okay. So now he finds out that he's been betrayed by his business partner. Okay. And his business partner's going to be lucky to escape jail time. Okay. And his business partner has done something highly illegal inside of the business that he's the co-owner of. Okay. Multiple shops, multiple locations. There, he's moving drugs through a legitimate business, and he gets caught. Okay. So everything that my dad has done goes under a microscope. Everything. So that makes the situation even more stressful, right? But he kind of realizes that this is one of those moments where he has to make another decision. Shortly after he decided to give up his son to save his life, he says, you know what, this partnership has been successful. We've gained a lot in a short period of time, in just a handful of years, less than a decade, but I want out. I want to start over. I want to get out of this, and I want to be a better man and a better father to my son. And I want to work hard and rebuild my half of this business. So my dad kept one store, the store he was working out of, he kept. And they split the property rentals they had, and they split the other business up, and cost a lot of money and lawyer fees to defend all of this stuff. But my father said, I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to be part of a business that is known for this arrest and for this type of stuff. The other stores we had, which were being run by sort of franchisees, they sold those off, and they split the money up as best they could. And my dad took his store, and his partner took his store, and they went their separate ways. So right along the same time that this happens, my older brother says to my father, he says, hey, I would like to start my own business like this one, but I don't want to be one of these stores. I want to be my own business with my own name, and have my own, carve out my own niche in a different part of this area. And I want to do that on my own, but I need your help. So my dad, reeling from all this other stuff that happened, says, okay, I'll invest in this business. I'll do everything I can to get you started. And he does. And my brother goes on to be wildly successful at that. Wildly successful. Driven on in part by the work ethic that him and I got from my dad. So despite all this chaos that was going on in his life, he still strived as hard as he could to be a good man. Ray realized he made a lot of mistakes. My father told me in later years, he goes, you know, that time was a terrible time in my life. I made so many mistakes. I made so many bad decisions. He goes, but the one thing I did right was I was cognizant of what you were telling me that night in the yard. He goes, that's probably the greatest decision I ever made with you as a child, as a young man growing up. I'll never forget that. So, you know, the good through the bad. Okay. That's where we're going with that. So I decide I'm back living with my mom. My mom decides that she wants to move. She wants to go live with my sister and her husband in another part of the country. And I was okay with that because we had worked out this agreement where I was 16, I had a driver's license, I would live with my older brother. So I went to live with my older brother, who was also like a father figure to me in a lot of ways. And basically, what happened was I lived with my older brother through high school. I'm 16, 17, 18. And during that time, I was still working for my older brother. I would still spend time with my dad, but I kept asking myself, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? And I'll never forget this. My dad said to me, he goes, whatever you do, son, he goes, be the best at it. He goes, if you're a shoe shine boy, be the best fucking shoe shine boy you can be. If you're picking up trash on the side of the street or emptying somebody's garbage into picking up garbage, you're a sanitation worker. He goes, be the best sanitation worker you can be. This doesn't matter what you do in life. If you work and you're good at it and you earn a living and you're responsible, you know what? That's being the best you can be. You can aspire to more, but whatever station you're at in life, be good at that station. Be good at that job. And so I started thinking about being the best. And I realized that I really wanted to serve my country. And I remember going with a friend down to the recruiters, and he couldn't get in the Marines because he didn't graduate from high school. So then I went home and I started researching the Marines. And I realized these guys were the few, the proud, the elite. They were the best of the best. They fought on ship, they fought on land, they fought all over the globe. They had a ridiculous reputation for being elite fighters. So if I was going to serve my country, I wanted to be the best. I wanted to at least be in the elite branch of the service. I'm not throwing shade at any other branches. There are badasses in all the other branches too. But when you're a 17 or 18-year-old kid and you're trying to figure out what you want to do, and I said, you know what? The best part about this is if I succeed or I fail, nobody else can claim credit for this. So I went to my dad because he thought I was going to work in a family business. He thought I would eventually come back and work in a family business. He wasn't totally wrong. But I went to him and I told him what I wanted to do. And he was like, well, I would rather have you here working with me. He goes, but you want to go and be a Marine? He goes, I'll be there at your graduation. You're going to do it. You will succeed. And of course I did. But that's how I ended up being a Marine. And that's, I knew that it was going to disappoint him in the sense that he wanted me there. But at the same time, I knew that he would understand why I was doing what I was doing. So I go in the Marines, I come back, and when I was away, and especially when I was stationed over the Middle East, I was in the first Gulf War, my dad was a mess. He was a mess. He was running a business. My brother would write to me and say, Dad's a mess. He's a head case. He's watching TV every night. Every Marine that he sees that has a shaved head and, and blue eyes, he thinks that's you, right? And it wasn't, but that's the way it was. And so he wasn't running his business well. So he hired a guy that was in the industry to come over and work for him. And that guy realized there was an opportunity to muscle in on the business. And my father was just too messed up to really, be paying attention to that. So around the time I got out of the military, my brother's like, the old man, he's not doing good. The business is struggling because not money wise per se, but just overall, because he can't, he's happy that you're alive, but he just really hasn't been paying attention to what he's doing. This is a guy who lived to work, right? He lived to work. I told you in my other story, he took a fall off the top of a arena that should have killed anybody else, but he lived. And then 2 days after getting out of the hospital, he wanted to go back to work, right? But he couldn't get his act together at this particular time, right? It really affected him thinking about losing his son again, this time, right? Serving his country. That didn't happen. I came home. But he asked me if I would come to work in the business, the family business. And he asked me, I'll give you half. I'll give you half of the business if you come to work for me. You'll be an equal partner to me. You'll have half of all the assets that we have. You'll have half of everything that I have business-wise. And I wanted to say no, because I didn't think that was really what I wanted to do with my life. But I felt a sense of duty and obligation. I felt like I owed it to my father to help him get back to where he wanted to be. So I did go back to work for him. But that partnership between him and I was short-lived. It didn't last because the partnership was in word only. It wasn't on paper because his his newer, younger model wife did not want me to be a partner. She wanted her sons to be partners. And when they did work in the business, they stole and lied and did a lot of things that were not what you would want from a business partner. So my father couldn't make them partners and wasn't going to make them partners. But by the same token, he never made me a partner. So I created a lot of friction between us. And I was doing this out of a sense of duty and obligation. And I felt like, I at least deserved to be an actual partner in this business. So we began to fight about that and a few other things. And I came into work one day and we had an argument because I showed up 10 minutes late. But I was the guy who was staying late all the time to finish all the jobs and doing all the dirty work and all that so that he could go home on time and be with his wife. And you know what? I realized that day was another watershed moment for me and my dad. Because that was the day I looked at him and I said, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. You're my dad and I love you, but I can't work with you. Put my stuff down. I put my keys on the counter and I turned around and I walked out and I never came back. My father was really mad at me. Didn't talk to me for a long time. Like, not really talk to me. And he asked me why I did that. And I said, you know what, Dad? I said, here's the thing. I said, years ago, you had the presence of mind in the middle of a chaotic situation to look at me and listen to me and realize that I was about to do something that couldn't be undone. And you did something about it. You fixed it. You promised me you would fix it. And you fixed it. And I said, listen to me when I tell you this, Dad. I love you very much. But if I stay here in this business with you, you and I are going to end up bitter enemies. We're going to end up not liking each other. You mean more to me as a father than you do as a business partner. At some point down the road, I hope we can mend some of these fences and we can be friends and hopefully even father and son again. It mattered to him. He understood. And a couple years went by, and I remember him asking me to come up and meet with him for lunch one day. So I go up there and he closes the shop for the day, which he never did, but he closes the shop. He just says, I'm closing, right? Put a sign up, right? Closing early today. We go to lunch. We get through lunch and we're sitting in his truck. I'll never forget this. And he turns to me and he said, I'm really sorry about the way things worked out. Just for the second time in my life, I've let someone in my family down. Because this time I let a specific person down, you. Before I let the whole family down by being selfish and egotistic and self-centered and careless and unfeeling. And my dad was a talkative guy, but he didn't talk about his feelings very often. And we proceeded to have one of those conversations that you hope you'll have with a parent at least once in your life. A really honest, open communication between the two of us. And he said, I thought a lot about what you said about why you left. He goes, and you're right. You're right. He goes, you were a young man who came back from the war. You had a lot of things happen. He goes, this isn't really where you wanted to be, but you came back to work because I was a mess and the business was a mess and I needed help. And you bailed me out. But you weren't meant to be with this, take this path the rest of your life. You had to find your own path. And you've done that. And I'm very proud of you. And I'm glad you're my son. And that was the moment, that evening or that afternoon, that conversation was the moment where we shifted back to rebuilding a relationship. But it was all because he was willing to sit down and admit to me that he realized that that's where we were headed as well. And he didn't want that. Right? So there's a lot of darkness in the middle of this story. But there's also a lot of light in this story, right? The person that you are, the person that you can be is there, but you have to be willing to lift yourself up above the bad decisions and not live back there, but live here in the present and look toward the future and say, I want this to change. So the rest of my life, my dad and I, we had lunches together, we played golf together, we went shooting a lot. We did a lot of cool stuff, right? Now most of that stuff was independent of his new family and his second wife because that situation just never ever got better. It got tolerable. It got, you know, politely acceptable, but it never changed. So I realized that I had to accept, and this is a life lesson for some of you folks out here who might be going through this yourselves. I had to accept the bad in that situation, or the less desirable part of his life, to enjoy the good, to build those memories that are still with me long after he's gone. So what I'm getting at here is, if you're fighting with a parent, a brother, a sister, right? And it's not a situation that's going to endanger your life or your own growth, find a way to make it work. Find a way to enjoy the time you have with your parents, your mother, your father, your sisters, your brothers, your spouse, while you can. Right? And the great thing about that is I wasn't there when my dad died. Okay. And when I say the great thing about that is, I don't mean it's great that I wasn't there. I had a life, I had a wife, I had a family, and I lost both my parents in the same year. I lost my mother on Memorial Day weekend, and my father died later that year on Labor Day weekend. And he'd been sick for a long time. And when he died, I didn't have any bereavement time. I didn't have PTO time I used all that up. I didn't have the finances to come back and visit him. And I knew that he was going to die. I knew it. And we talked on the phone. And he said to me, he goes, you gave me everything that I could possibly want in a relationship with a son, because you were willing to make a sacrifice to save our relationship. And when I realized that, I was willing to admit all the things I did wrong to have a son back again. But you have to take those opportunities. Everything I needed to say to my dad and every experience I needed to have with him, I had long before he got sick and passed away. So when he died, I was okay with that, because it wasn't like I didn't have anything left to say. Don't wait to say those things. Don't wait to tell people how much you love them. In the end, my father spent the last couple decades of his life being a very, very good man who was dedicated to his family, dedicated to his sons, dedicated to his grandchildren. He retired. He spent all of his time and his money trying to make people happy. And he never, ever quite got over the big mistakes he made in the middle of his life. He told me that himself. He goes, I don't know if I'll ever get over those things. I can never take them back. But I can't live there either. I've got to be the person I am today. So from struggles to success to failure, ego and money and power and the ability to do whatever the hell you wanted and being self-centered and narcissistic, to come out of all that on the other side and to still have your children and to still have those relationships and to still have the presence of mind to understand that the hard work wasn't the only thing he needed. He needed to have his sons. He needed to have his family. He needed to do whatever was necessary to make those things, to fix those things as best he could in the later part of his life. And he did that. He did do that. There's no doubt that his mistakes greatly affected me. They made me into the person I was, because I looked at a lot of those mistakes and I said, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to put someone through that, ever. I'm going to be a dedicated husband and father and a good friend to people, and I'm going to work hard to earn people's respect and keep it. And I'm going to do the best I can to not make mistakes, even though we all do. And I've made many. That's something I'm going to strive to do. Had he been a perfect father, I might not have grown up that way. So anyway, there is the full circle story of Les, my dad. That is Storytellers Part 2. So if you missed the first part, you're going to want to go back and watch it, because that's the really amazing rags to riches, uplifting part of this whole tale. Now, I will have other storytellers for you. I'm thinking at some point before the holidays of telling you about my mom, and that's an interesting story as well. But you needed this story first. You needed this tale of light to dark and back to light to be able to appreciate the nuances of her tale. So anyway, that, folks, is Storytellers 2.0. And that's about all the time I've got for tonight, because I got to go make some dinner with my lovely wife. And then once we're done doing that, I am going to get on and watch Cole's live stream. So I will see most of you over there. But for the 30 or 40 of you that were in here tonight, I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope you enjoyed the conclusion of what I consider to be a pretty epic journey of one man who came from nothing and walked this path through his life. So anyway, that is the story of my dad. And someday, hopefully, maybe my grandchildren, or maybe even my great-grandchildren, maybe watch this video and have a little better understanding of who he was and who I am. Again, folks, thank you to all of you minions for being here tonight. I greatly appreciate everyone. I really, really appreciate all your thoughts, prayers, comments, likes, etc. For my lovely wife, Mrs. Edge, and her Instagram account stuff, all of that kind of thing. She's doing good. We got 3 treatments to go before she gets a break from her chemo. And then we're gonna definitely try to enjoy the rest of this little mini vacation break I have from work right now. I will have a live stream next Tuesday, so I hope to see most of you there. And when I'm done with my little vacation, the Saturday lives will recommence. Once again, don't forget to send your words of the week in. If you tuned in late and you've got words of the week, I need you to send those words of the week to me at eionansedge@gmail.com. Thank you, guys. I love you all. Thanks for listening. I'll see you later. Have a good night, okay? Take care, everyone.